Doomsday Clock issue 5 starts with Ozymandias in the hospital. After all, in issue 3 he did take a bit of a tumble
Hmm.
out of the LexCorp building. And what's interesting is the doctor actually kind of says that there's nothing wrong with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got like an x-ray of his skull, and it's sort of showing you where that spot was before, but it then implies, no, that's just their flashlight that's hitting the x-ray. It's not actually there anymore. She's like, no, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. So that's interesting. Is he cured, or is she just not seeing this?
I'm thinking it's his guilt because the brain can play tricks on you. I know this is someone that's dealt with anxiety before, where you get phantom tingles and there's nothing going on. So, or maybe our medicine's not caught up with his medicine, even though he's from the past. Where he's from.
Maybe, I think it's more likely if there was something there, something to do with the universe hopping, kind of fixed him.
Yeah, because I wouldn't necessarily assume that she would notice it if she was just giving him like a checkup for broken bones and stuff. But she has an X-ray of his skull, like so she would see it.
and I don't think his technology is more advanced to the point where they wouldn't detect a big tumor and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no. So sure enough, Veet wakes up and he takes the readings off, so the guards have to come back in and get him. What I thought was interesting with the guards though is they're talking about how they get more overtime pay when anything involving a metahuman or a cape is brought in, and how it's a federal thing now. Nowadays, anytime there's any sort of superhuman or even just a costume, no, it's federal. It's higher up the food chain.
Yeah,
you don't deal with it.
Yeah, Johns is working really hard to create this world that's Watchmen-esque, because this is not the normal DC, like with capes and being a federal, like this feels like a sideways universe at points, and I think he's doing a really good job, especially with what's going to come up in the next couple pages about the Superman theory.
Yeah, there's a lot of little tidbits about that in this one.
There is, isn't there? And it really took me how this overtime rate. It's double pay, but it must be quite a lot. If this guy's going, hey, yeah, no, I'm doing it. There's that boat I've been looking at buying. Like, well, that's not exactly cheap.
Yeah,
especially for a cop, right?
For a uniform cop,
that much.
Yeah, for a uniform cop, the fact that he's talking about buying a boat is kind of notable.
Don't forget they are Metropolis, not Gotham. So, Metropolis has a little bit more money to pay for overtime.
Sure, but I just mean in terms of just how much they're being paid for this in general, because no way a regular salary is buying him a boat.
No. But think about how many superhumans there are in the States, like compared to everywhere else. Like, so especially in Metropolis. So if they're dealing with cape stuff all the time, and he's getting all that extra pay, that's almost two jobs in one.
Yeah, and it's actually when he's going to get a cat, because he steals one of the uniforms and he's going to get his cat back because he cares about his cat. And this is a running thing in the book here, this issue, where we'll see. I mean, it's been a running thing in the series as a whole, but especially in this issue, where there'll be a TV broadcast on. There's a TV up on the wall as they're walking past, and we kind of focus on it for a second, and we see that Hawk and Dove, I bet you weren't expecting that to be mentioned anytime soon. They've been arrested in Russia for interfering in something, and they claim, of course, that they were helping in the Rocket Red Brigade. Who arrested them. The armed forces were being reckless and triggering the attackers and escalating the situation.
And that coming from Hawk. I mean, you guys don't know about Hawk. Hawk is the hot-headed of the two that leaps first. So for him to say that someone else is being reckless, that's quite a statement.
It is. I think it's really interesting to play with them in this book. Because obviously, this has been a very politically charged book. And a lot of the Hawk and Dove stories are, because one of them's a liberal, one's a conservative.
Alright, so we actually cut to Daily Planet, and outside of the whole waking up from the nightmare in issue 1, this is actually the first time I believe we're actually getting to Clark and Lois and Superman. And Lois is pissed at Perry because he changed their headline to say that a metahuman tried to assassinate Lex Luthor. And also, I like that when Perry's like, because she's like, "Oh, you're playing to paranoia to sell papers," and he's like, "And get clicks, God help me."
This is the one thing I don't like about this issue. I feel like Perry's always had some journalistic standards. He's always been aggressively pushing the story, but he's never really been making things up to sell papers.
But I feel like Johns knows that we know that, and that's why it feels off, right? Because this is a different time in DC, and if he wants to stay afloat, he's got to change too. And so I also like when he says, she calls him Chief. He's like, no, you call me Mr. White when you're yelling at me. So he doesn't get mad that she's yelling. It's just.
I feel like Lois here complaining that he's manipulating her wording, not so much that what he's put in there is incorrect.
Right. Because she says you're playing into paranoia to sell papers.
She outright says, being a metahuman hasn't been proven yet. So she outright says, no, we don't know this. Putting it in there is irresponsible. And again,
she's right.
She is, and it's why I don't really. This is the one thing. It just doesn't track for me as Perry, and maybe this will come up later, and I'll understand it a bit better. But right now, it just doesn't work for me.
I mean, maybe there's a point here that the world has changed a little bit, and even Perry's standards are going because of what's going on.
That's how I read it, But he even goes out there and is like, get out there and prove him wrong. He knows what he's doing. He's been the editor-in-chief. He knows also how to play Lois,
Yes, who is very angry and wants to get a new Godfather for John. So
let me just say, Frank drawing Lois is one of my favorite things ever. If I had the spare cash to get a sketch from Frank, it would probably be Lois over Superman. But yeah, I'm weird. Yeah, but I just love the way he draws her.
Honestly, reading this, the whole metahuman thing, it reminds me more of how the press is quick to label a shooter, terrorist. Yeah. They'll jump to, it's a terrorist or it's a Muslim. They'll jump to that before they have facts.
If it bleeds, it leads. Right? Yeah. It's part of that whole sensationalism. That's the word.
No, I agree, and I feel like my problem is in the DC universe. It's always been Perry's been one of the bastions of, being the honest press. Media, rather than the one that's jumped. It's always been that we're the planet. We hold ourselves to higher standards. So this feels particularly just strange to me to make that analog with the planet.
But again, maybe that's the dramatic point. Is that this is a regular. So Clark's there, but there's again something on TV. We have the Russian firestorm.
Pozar.
Pozar. Who's basically saying, unlike my American equivalent, I was not created by the government. I was killed in Chernobyl, and I rose later, and he's a hero of the people.
To that I say, it was lack of government regulation that led to Chernobyl. So. He was created by the government.
I actually love the irony here that the Russian version of the American superhero is arguing that he's better because he wasn't created by the government. When just think of the Cold War and communism versus capitalism. The whole point was that the government was more hands-on.
Yeah.
In communism. I just thought it's kind of funny to me. So that cracks me up. So then we get to the real juicy meat of the issue.
And I think it's just worth noting that what Pozar says is that the country is closing its borders to all foreigners. So they're closing themselves off. Yeah,
and also worth mentioning as well is that Lois is speculating someone is behind this Superman theory nonsense, and I've got a feeling I know who. And as soon as I read that, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know who she thinks. So
which immediately goes. So I'm pretty sure it's not.
Probably not. Yeah, but I mean, I knew what she was thinking. So
no, exactly.
It's written well because I know exactly what Lois is thinking. When I look back at this issue, right, when I think about this issue and I think about what was exciting me the most, it's this next set of characters, along with one other one that we get a little bit later. So we're with Rorschach and Sartain Girl, and they're kind of suiting up, they're getting their stuff back. Sartain Girl's getting a ring, her Legion ring, out of the evidence bag.
Yep, that popped me. It's my return from wrestling.
Yeah, and she actually, she knows exactly everything that's going on from Rorschach, because she even says, I know who that is from your mind. And he's like, so you know my plan then, why I need to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. And there was a tease at the end, and I honestly did not know what she was meaning to at the end of this, where he's like, you get any ideas how to solve this plan? And she says, we had a great big light. And my first thought was like, why would the bat signal help? I'm trying to think, what's she talking about? What's she talking about?
Batman mark.
I don't know, it was just the first thing that popped in my head. of course, the first mention of a green flame later on was where I started to.
You went, oh.
I was like, oh.
And,
There's that.
it is smartly done because this scene with Sangam and Rorschach leads into the scene where we learn that information.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and again, there's stuff on TV. We see more of the news stuff. This Russian, what they called the
Rocket.
Yeah.
Brigade?
Yeah, those guys. You've got one who's like a blue-looking flash with pink hair. You get your Russian Firestorm. You get your
Red Star.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, Vostok from Aquaman and the Others.
Look at you recognizing all these characters back. This is impressive.
I didn't know who the Blue Flash one was, though. I had to do a little research. Apparently, she's called Lady Flash and was created in the 80s as part of that Firestorm.
This is why we have Matt on the show.
This is why Matt's here. Matt's here for the deep pulls.
And so, but yeah, and again, that's where it's pulling from this Firestorm where everything was politically charged, where the two guys, you had Ronnie Raymond and then Mikhail, I forget what Pozar's full name was, but they were definitely representatives of Reagan and Gorbachev.
Mikhail Arcadin.
Yeah, so, Ostrander during that run wasn't veiling it that well, and we know that Johns is a super fan of that run because he tries to interject. If it's not Cyborg, he's trying to interject. It's Firestorm everywhere. So
it's actually as two orderlies discover that Johnny Thunders escaped the hospital that we're reminded of the adventures of Nathaniel Dusk and where we left off with the movie last time we saw it. We get that kind of comes in, and we see the newspaper, of course, applying where Thunders went. It says green fire consumes all American steel, and I wasn't sure yet, but I was like, green fire.
Yeah, it's like I only know of one green fire.
Yes.
Also, the story of Aladdin, which people forget that when Green Lantern first came around, he was magic-based. Like, they didn't do the whole sci-fi thing. And it was a ring, like, in Aladdin. The original story of Aladdin, he has a wish ring, not the genie in the lamp. So, you see the parallels there. You also find out that Johnny Thunder's 102. And you're like, oh, man, this guy...
I want to see I actually want to see the live action footage of, like, and when they make a movie out of this someday, right? I want the live action of the 102-year-old climbing out the window.
Yeah. And we also have the Nathaniel Dusk movie going on. They're still looking for the killer.
Yeah, and they find the butler of the rich guy. Because remember, the whole thing was that the rich guy and then the other guy, they were both murdered, but only one was the target, and the other one was just, like, there. Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, and is it me, the butler, Jasper Wellington? Oh no, he that's the name. So this guy, he looks a lot like Johnny Thunder.
He does. I thought that as well.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to that panel.
Is that meant to be him? Like, was he an actor at some point?
Oh, I don't think so, because at 102, you're looking at. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's got the bow tie down.
Yeah, if anything, this guy's too. Like, this movie's too old for it to be him.
Yeah, you're right.
He'd be way younger than this. No, I think it's more of a thematic thing and more kind of like how it parallels with him running off to get this lantern, because the character here stole the money from the rich guy after he died. He's got an alibi that he didn't kill him, and Dusk believes him, but he was stealing the money to have a sex change in Europe.
Yeah.
So no, it's interesting. That's all we get in the movie, this issue, but definitely the him running off, and maybe you can sort of correlate wanting to change with him wanting to get like the JSA back or get his real life back, or
I think it's interesting. It's him that's left behind there at the end. That he's the one that is the stand-in for Thunder.
Yeah,
he gets caught, essentially, and has to give it all up.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting, because when we were watching it on the whatever issue it was in 2 or 3, the Nathaniel stuff, we're thinking, okay, how does this relate to Johnny Thunder, right? Because it was always in his scenes, and we're like, okay, does he see himself as Nathaniel Dusk? But now seeing this, I don't think Dusk is the one that represents him.
No.
Yeah, I think the fact that it looks so much like him is kind of signaling that with a giant neon light.
No, it is, yeah. But I mean, I think it's interesting to shift that perspective away from what we were assuming before. And if that's the case, who is Dusk? Who does Dusk represent in his life?
If he's the person who stops Thunder,
yeah,
maybe we can use that to figure out who it is later if someone stops him.
That makes sense.
You know, that's if Thunder actually does stop him. I mean, Thunder may end up helping him in the movie. We don't know. Like, the plot might go, you know, this may not be the end of this character in the plot of the movie.
No.
So we might see more of that as we go on. So, you know, then we have Johnny Thunder. He's at the train station, but he can't afford the ticket. So he's shouted at, and he has to go get the bus. He's wandering out alone in the rain. It's very sad, very atmospheric. Some great stuff here. And I think it's worth mentioning as well, the reflection at the bottom of that page, it very much looks like the black and white character from the movie in the reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is not an accident. No. Again, neon light saying, hey, that character is representing Thunder in some way in the movie. So then we come to the Owl ship, right? And Veet's back to it, but Batman's there. Batman, having read Rorschach's journal, is a bit more clued in to what's going on here, and he's waiting for Ozymandias. And well, that's basically it. Yeah, I was expecting more of a scene there.
No, nothing.
That's the tease. We come back to that later. We actually come to the comedian, who seems to we don't actually know why as of yet, but he seems to be tracking down the mime and marionette.
Yeah, he's at the bar where they had their fun.
Yeah, and he intimidates the two cops. He basically threatens them and says, "It's best if you just don't see me, boys. Otherwise, I might have to slit your throats."
Yeah.
So sure enough,
he's more Deathstroke than Deathstroke. Like
he is, isn't he?
You know, this felt very much like in that issue of Deathstroke where he's burying the van, and he tells the cops you didn't see nothing, and then we get the whole rest of the issue. So,
yeah,
but yeah, very much reminiscent of that. But yeah, so I'm thinking that in order to draw out Manhattan, Veet brought Mime and Marionette to this world because he's gonna want to stop them from doing whatever they're doing. Like they're the bait.
I want to say there's a nice through line in the way the scenes transition here, because it goes from Batman and Veet mentions, oh shit, those two are gone, and then we go to the comedian who's following in their footsteps, and then we go from that page to actually seeing the Mime and Marionette and where they are. They're still tracking down the Joker by hunting more of his cronies.
Taking off some arms.
Cutting off some arms, and you know, they're creepy as ever. And the guy's like, well, I don't know where he necessarily lives, but there's a plan tonight that everyone's going to meet at the light. And like, which one? And sure enough, he's talking about the bat signal. So there's stuff going down. And again, it's kind of tied into everything bubbling over with the protests and the riots, and everything's kind of like, especially in Gotham, as we see as we go. But we actually jump back to Batman, and again, it transitions really nicely. It goes from the bat signal to Batman's logo on his suit. So we're with them, and they're kind of like debating, you know, basically like what Veet did. And Veet's kind of hitting back with, you know, you basically, you know, these protests are for you. You realise that, right? You know, that's all going on. And there's more stuff in the TV. We see Firestorm hitting back at Posar, saying, no, my thing's got nothing to do with the government. It was an accident with me and my friend, all my friends, and he's kind of referring to other superheroes here. You know, we all had accidents and stuff. That Superman theory is total bullshit. Which actually, it's funny because the comic in general feels a bit more mature than the regular DC Universe stuff, but having someone drop bullshit really does kind of point that out.
It was very meta, him talk to, you know, the one in his head going, no, I won't watch my language.
Yeah, professors in his head.
Well, it feels very much like Ronnie Reeman from what I've been, from interactions in other books. So, you know, and then a new flippin' Frost. Which that threw me for a loop, because I was like, that's not Caitlin.
Yeah, it's Killer Frost, but it's not her. But of course, then it jumps to another part of the news, and they mention Kandak and King Cobra, and you know, you see they mention Jack Ryder, who of course is like, you know, a classic journalist in DCU.
The Creeper.
Yeah, and he's almost about to be, and you see some lightning, and I'm like, wait a minute, lightning and Kandak. Wait a minute, where's this going? And it confirms it in the next page. It actually tells you in the next page who they're talking about. It actually mentions Black Adam.
So excited.
Well, and don't forget that guy looks like a terrorist is representing Cobra. So
yes,
we're getting like all of these kind of real life events, but done through the DC lens, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
Because he's talking about Kali Yuga, and then what we see what happens with Black Adam. I think it's really cool.
It's really interesting how it blurs those lines between the DC and the real world, because they mention Syria by name.
Yep.
In maybe the next page or two, I think. Well, they're talking about this event still, and
because he's been. We find out that Black Adam's been defending Kahndaq as he does.
Yep.
But now, instead of fighting Cobra in Kahndaq, he crossed over into Syria, and now it's an international incident. That even though he was saving this American journalist, it's going to create problems, especially because we find out that Markovia has joined with Russia, and they have an alliance, and Markovia has closed their borders as well. And we find out that what's his name, Brian Markov, Geoff, is running his own band of outsiders.
No, what I think is really effective about this book is that it goes from that news report, you see the riots in the street, which leads into, like, again, it's Batman and Veidt sort of debating what they were debating. I was even mentioning some of the dialogue from this part before, because it kind of starts cutting around really quickly, and you get the sense that everything's starting to ramp up, and we're cutting between scenes very, very, briskly through the book.
Yeah.
And we see, on the TV, Lex Luthor's awake and he's recovering, and it's just like, okay, that's just like a one thing in there. And then we see, General Lane is pulling out. The soldiers are pulling out the conflict because they're not welcome there anymore. So it's all building up, and again, that's a neat little transition. We see Lex is awake in that previous page, and then we come to this one, we see General Lane, and then it's Lois who's there to see Lex. Like, it's very neatly kind of building upon itself to, like, follows into the next scene.
Such a through line of a flow, hasn't it? Because, they say, this is the least focused issue so far of the book, in that we've got a lot of different things going on, a lot of small scenes that we're cut in between, but the connective tissue is always so smooth.
And I think that's why it's my favorite. Because it feels, up to this point, it's only felt like a Watchmen sequel. Here, it's like, no, this is a DC book. Like, this is what's going on at DC. With all these different things.
And I think the effect of having all these small scenes that are all kind of building up, it does really feel like it's getting more chaotic. Like, we're reaching a boiling point. Everything's kind of starting to, like, hit off at the same time. And Lois, as expected, accuses Lex of the Superman theory. Hatred of Superman, of course you would name it after that. You name it after him. And he's like, that all makes sense. I can't deny any of that. But, it's not me. In fact, I've been looking into it myself. And that's probably what made me a target of one of the metahuman assassins. And we know that's not the case. We know that's not who Veidt is. But that's what Lex is assuming.
A reasonable assumption is given the information that he has.
So... But he's like, no, I'm happy to share everything I know about the Superman theory, Lois, and you and I can work together. And then Superman, we see him flying outside, just floating, listening to this conversation. And the interesting thing here is that whoever started this is a metahuman themselves, and at some point in time, they were a member of the Justice League.
I love the at some point in time. So that doesn't really narrow it down that much.
It doesn't, no.
Well, no, but we know that the Justice League hasn't been around for that long.
Well,
at this point,
the ultimate question here is, which Justice League?
So who has Manhattan been masquerading as? That's how I read this. Right? Is that how you guys read it too?
Well, it depends. You're assuming Manhattan's behind the Superman theory.
I do, because he was the one with superpowers in Watchmen, right? Veidt, you could argue, has superpowers, but not really. But yeah, Manhattan is the superpowered hero. So he came to this world, and he was in the past. Remember all that stuff that we got about the actor that had played Nathaniel Dusk, and all that mystery surrounding him in the back matter? It lines up with this whole government and then the Justice League and whatnot.
So you think the Superman theory is true, and that Manhattan is behind it?
I do, because in the meta way, the reason why there's so many American superheroes is because comics kind of started in America, at least superhero comics.
Well, hold on a second though. You're saying that it's true. Surely you only think it's true in this version of the universe. You don't think it was true?
Yes. No.
Like, post-Crisis and before New 52.
Oh, no. I think for the sake of the story, that whatever Manhattan did, it altered going forward. So, like, when he came here, it changed continuity, for lack of a better term.
It's the same thing to go back to, the Superman Reborn, not Reborn, the Mr. Oz with, the him being Jor-El. It's like, in this continuity, Jor-El always got away, because Manhattan has come and done that. So
exactly,
it's not like it's a change from our outside perspective. But in the timeline, that always happened to Jor-El. We just didn't know.
In the meta, so in the meta sense, superheroes are a very American invention, right? It's kind of like jazz in that way. It's like, jazz has foundation in other world music, but the jazz that everybody knows is uniquely American. Right, and that's how I feel. What Johns is saying with these superheroes is that's why 97% of them are American, because they all started here.
It is. It's something that Grant Morrison talks a lot about. If you read his book Super Gods, is a very good book, by the way. Well worth checking out if you're interested in this stuff. Is the idea that superheroes are the American mythology. Because America is such a, relatively speaking, a new country. It doesn't have that rich mythology that most cultures have. So it created one with superheroes. Right.
And I mean, and you have the very first superhero created by sons of immigrants, and in fact turned their hero into an immigrant. And it's a uniquely American story. So that's where I feel in the story, if it's true or not, I feel for the sake of the story, part of it is. And I feel like it is Manhattan puppet, like seeing well, we couldn't handle this type of stuff in our universe. Let's see how this universe handles it. And now it's coming to a head. It's just later.
How does that come into play, though, with the fact that he kind of messed up the universe that was already there?
This is what I'm having trouble with.
This is why I can't completely on board with this. It's not. I mean, I can buy that he said, "Okay, I'm going to restart this place and have it all happen earlier and manipulate it that way." I can't buy that he just decided, "I'm going to experiment and make it all happen," because it already happened. This is not a completely fresh thing that he's done in this universe. He's done like a new interpretation of what was already there. If it is as simple, he's been masquerading as someone on the Justice League all this time. Because I don't necessarily read this as, someone who's in the Justice League right now in the main DCU is going to turn out to be Manhattan all this time. I don't necessarily read it like that.
It's at some point they were a member. It's the same thing that we got with, and not to blame him here, but a Martian Manhunter. We know he was kind of a member for a little bit.
Yeah.
But then he vanished. We didn't get a lot of stories with him. He was a member.
But this is why I don't see this point of looking at who's on the teams in the next little bit, because Martian Manhunter, he was apparently on the team in the classic way that we all think of him as, but he's not being in the New 52, and yet all of a sudden now in continuity, he was on the team originally. He was always on the team.
Yeah.
Back at the start.
No, I agree.
That's why it's called a retcon, right? Because it's retroactive continuity.
Well, because what I'm saying here is I don't think whoever this turns out to be, whether they're Manhattan or whether they're just in some way responsible for this theory that came out about anyway, I don't necessarily think it's someone who has to have been on the Justice League at some point since the New 52 started. I think it could be almost anyone who's been on the Justice League ever in the history of DC Comics.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's going to pull from some, if I had to put money on it, it's Captain Atom, right? Because that's the one that's most similar.
It's Snapper Carr, Matt. It's Snapper Carr. He's behind it all.
You say that, but...
Oh, here we go.
No, Snapper Carr's always been on the periphery, right?
Uh-huh.
So if there's someone that's going to start something and then sit back and watch it happen...
I mean, he's not a metahuman, though, unless something happened later that I don't know about. But
I do think it's smart not to discount Captain Atom entirely. Obviously, he's the obvious pick because he is Manhattan for all intents and purposes. But we did have that miniseries with him, last year.
Yeah, but I don't think that matters. I feel like they were putting it out there.
Right. But I think more it was the same thing that we got with, we had the Death of Hawkman series, which at the time didn't feel like anything. But now it's like, oh, no, that was clearing the plate. That was setting up, okay, we'll clear that Hawkman out of the way, because now we're getting a new Hawkman book. And obviously we had everything in metal. It feels like the long game.
Or let's say that it is Captain Atom, right? But it's not Dr. Manhattan as Captain Atom. It's he created Captain Atom, and then Captain Atom being there, he's the one that's created the metahumans.
Yeah, maybe.
That goes back to what was that? Armageddon 2001.
Armageddon 2001, yeah.
Yeah, where he was revealed, right? Originally, he was supposed to be that one guy. I can't think right now.
Extant.
Yeah, is it Extant?
Yeah, Hawk became Extant and then something else, or was it something else first and then Extant? I can't remember which way, because he had two villain names.
Yeah, but yeah, so they were going to do that, and then they got cold feet at whatever the last minute and decided not to make Captain Atom. They made it Hawk.
Yeah, because he became the second version of the villain in Zero Hour,
Right.
if I recall correctly.
Right. So that would just play into it because he ends up being an overlord, right? It's kind of like the Maestro and with the Hulk and whatnot. So I don't know. I'm just spitballing right now.
I don't think Captain Atom is Manhattan.
No,
but I think he is going to play into this story in some way because of that mini. I think they were setting it up as a reminder. Go, no, he's in play.
Yeah, I feel some of the Charlton characters we haven't got to yet, but I feel they are in play. Like, if we don't see the Question, I would be shocked. You know?
Yeah.
So, and same with a version of Black Canary, because that was Silk Spectre, and then Ted Kord and Blue Beetle, you know, as Night Owl. So.
Yeah, there's that great joke about it was Saturn Girl says she's Saturn Girl, and Rorschach's like, oh, do you know Sally Jupiter? as if that's related in any way.
I did like that. It's like, well, you both got planet names.
Yeah.
That was all a roundabout way of saying, like, Captain Atom was one of the Charlton characters. So, you know, if this is their entryway, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like this. This, like, it used to be someone on the Justice League. It's giving me kind of weird, kind of almost identity crisis feelings here of like, okay, who is it among us, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just the look in Clark's face as he's hearing this, because I love that it goes to the close up as he says that final bit. It's someone who used to be on the Justice League at some point. And you know, given that we're playing with timey-wimey things here as well, like, you know, that could also mean like this could be someone who was on the Justice League in a now defunct timeline.
It could be.
So Pete's saying it's vibe. It's definitely vibe.
That's not how I was jumping to, Matt. I have to admit, but
I would counter that by just the fact that Lex has dug up solid information that there were someone on the Justice League. Right, whatever he's tracked down has pointed to that. So it has to have happened in this timeline that he can find evidence.
Oh, I don't think so. I disagree with that. The information could just make him. That's what he would assume based on the information, because he wouldn't necessarily consider that they came from a different timeline. But maybe the metahuman knows things about the Justice League that only someone who's been on the League would know, for example. And he would assume, okay, he's been on the League at some point in this timeline.
Yeah, maybe then. I think it depends what's led him to think it, I suppose.
Because why would Lex, unless given some sort of hint, think, oh, it's someone from a previous continuity or something?
No, of course.
So, yeah, that's where I'm standing at.
Why was Veidt going to Lex at the beginning? Remind me.
He wanted to get
smart man.
Yeah, he wanted the smartest man to team up with them so they could solve the Manhattan problem and whatnot. Okay. Where was he? We're going for a record time on this issue, by the way.
It's because there's all three of us again.
I don't know. I'll blame Matt for some of his deep cuts.
There's not much left.
So Thunder gets off the bus. He's at the burnt down plant, and some thugs, some junkies are there, and want to, like, you know, rob him and beat him up and whatnot. And they start chasing him. And again, we're cutting around really quick. We're back to the ship, and Veidt, now that Batman's like trying to stop him, Veidt actually flips well, first of all, he tries to fire into the crowd, and Batman stops him because he's Batman. And then Veidt flips the damn thing upside down to make him fall out. And this is actually intercut. At this point, we're actually cutting between multiple scenes in the same panel, the same page. Because we've got the riots going on, and they're, you know, throwing off the bat signal off the roof. And then you've got Mimi Marionette are there. You've got back to the TV where Black Adam's actually saying, hey, metahumans, you can have asylum in Kandak. Like, if you come here, you'll be protected.
Yeah. So and I love this. Just that, you know, this is happening as the ship's being flipped. Yeah. And you know, as it gets upside down, you know, he actually says, "Oh, I turned the world upside down." Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. In fact, some of my favourite stuff is the page after that when Batman actually falls out of the ship, and that's when we intercut and Thunder's like going to something just, you know, it's a bit green, you know, some green light emanating.
A green glow.
Yeah. And Batman's falling. I love that panel at the bottom where Batman, you know, it's the wide panel where he's like, you know, falling into the crowd and the cape's like sort of flapping back. I think that's a fantastic panel, but
it is.
I think it's really interesting. The bottom panel of this, Batman's almost at the crowd, and they're all reaching for him. Are they reaching to try and catch him, to help him, or are they just?
They're part of the anti-Batman protest.
Yeah, so. But that's the thing. But do they want him dead, or are they still trying to? Oh, we don't want him dead. We're going to catch him, or are they going to rip him apart immediately?
Yeah, I think it's meant to invoke a Renaissance painting, so that's what I got from it.
Okay.
But they do catch him. That's what happens.
Well,
Yeah, but like
As in they kidnap him. I suppose I should phrase that better.
yeah, but I mean, their goal is it? We want him for ourselves, that, or is it? They try and save him because they're not ultimately bad enough that they want him
Well, no,
dead.
because I think this is a weird debate to bring up, because what's actually happening is he's grappling away and they reach up to grab him so he can't get away. They're grabbing him so he doesn't leave.
Yeah, okay.
So the intent, I don't think the intent there is to save him, because I don't think there's that intent needs to be there, because they're actually trying to grab him.
Fair enough. I'm not sure how much of that they can see from their angle. Like, how much they can see he's grappling away, because to them it looks like he's falling.
Yeah, but we go from that. We go from
grapple.
that though to people who have kidnapped him, like dropping him off at the Joker. So I'm not sure.
No, fair enough.
I mean, the intent seems pretty clear here, I think. But no, my favorite. I love that panel, but I love when I actually saw the lantern. That panel of the lantern itself.
Yep.
When I saw it, I just about shot a brick. Because even though I was kind of guessing that's what was coming.
He mentioned Alan by name earlier, right?
Yeah, when he was talking to.
about Alan Scott.
Yeah, when he was talking to the thugs. Yeah, he mentions a couple of names, I think.
Yeah, he mentioned. I don't think he says Alan Scott, but I think he definitely said Alan.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so you've got that. Obviously, he gets away because Rorschach and Saturn Girl show up to help. Because he's actually getting beaten up. So once he finds the lantern, they start beating him up. As Batman's getting beat up, as the bat signal's falling off the roof. And that's when Rorschach and Saturn Girl jump in. And I love that she says, "Oh, don't worry about the bad guys there. They were going to overdose tonight anyway. Things have a way of evening out."
Yeah. Again with that balance.
Yeah, balance again. And of course, Mime and Marinette are they're like sort of in awe of the rioting. They're enjoying the chaos. And that's when the Joker comes up behind them. And it's like, I love that someone says, "Hey boss," and he's like, "I'm monologuing." Shut up. It's like, no, you got to see this. And that's when they present him with Batman, who's bloody and beaten. And that's when Rorschach ends the book with asking, "Tell us, explain, what is Lantern?" And of course, you see the little the moth, whatever it is, going towards the lantern, like we've been seeing with the lights. It was a big thing in the last issue with the Rorschach backstory.
I think it's even more applicable here because it's the saying is moth to a flame.
Yeah.
And of course, with Alan Scott, it's the green flame, not a light.
Yeah, it's literally a flame in this case. I like how it's a different type of green colour than we normally see with the lanterns to differentiate it a little bit.
Yep.
It's a little more muted. Yeah.
I think that works really well. No, I dug this ending a lot. I feel like the stuff here. I think as much as we knew this was going to lead to the JSA in some way, and as much as we already had Thunder, but it's just been Thunder ever since Rebirth. This has been 2 years of just having Thunder in the hospital, and that's all we knew about.
And we got that one tease of Jay.
And that one tease of Jay in the Flash, of course.
Which we know that all the speedsters are stuck in the Speed Force, though, right? From Flash.
We do, so. Yeah. But now him actually going, so his plan's like, no, I need to find the light, I need to find the lantern, and he's found it, and that's also what Saturn Girl's looking for as well. We need that light. So the fact that this is going to factor into the plan in some way is Alan Scott's lanterns.
Yeah, where is Alan Scott? Because why is this lantern here alone?
Why don't people remember the Justice Society?
Yeah.
Why is that? Why? And also, just as a fan, I have Saturn Girl on the same page as I have the Green Flame. Like, holy crap. No. Yeah. And then just Joker, that pose that Frank has him in. Like, we've gotten so much good Joker stuff, with like Warren Jokes and Riddles, with Janin, and then just this. Like,
yeah, I'll be honest, this is my least favorite type of Joker. This is the, it's very camp and overly theatrical.
Yeah, Clown Prince of Crime.
Yeah, this is fine, but it's my least favorite take, and so while it's very well drawn, still, of course, because it's Gary Frank, it's like, okay, that's the version of Joker we're going with here, and it's immediately just dampens my excitement a touch for the Joker part of this story.
I don't feel that way. I don't think.
No, so that's a personal taste onto which type of Joker story I prefer.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of happy that the Capullo haircut is gone. No, it's super exciting. The lantern got me giddy. It got me giddy.
Yep.
I think this is probably my favorite issue of this so far. mainly because it's really everything it's hitting at, everything it's teasing at, everything ramping up from all the various angles that it's doing it from. Finally bringing in Superman and Lois and having them be part of it, because it really feels now that Batman and Superman are both parts of the story, full fledged. It'll be interesting to see, does Wonder Woman come in some way? Is the other big heavy hitter as part of the debate?
Yeah.
Who else shows up? And like if you'd asked me before this issue, what superheroes do you think might pop in this? I was never going to guess Hawkdove and Firestorm.
No.
Like,
That said, it is John's though. So
Yeah, so you probably could have guessed Firestorm if you know your Johns enough.
I mean, it makes sense given his past, but at the same time,
it's the same with Black Adam. It's like, yeah, okay, Johns loves Black Adam, and as do I. So
he does.
I'm
But Black
more than
Adam, I feel like with all the political stuff going on, there was more like reason to guess him. Whereas Firestorm is relatively random. I mean, it makes sense. Like he's put them in a place in the story that works.
Yeah.
But but beforehand, I don't think there was anybody you'd have jumped to go. He's going to be one of these examples they're going to use on the news to be these things.
Yeah.
That was a fantastic issue.
Yeah, I assume you guys both read the Batman.
I had a good look at it. Yeah.
Just one of my favorite touches, before we even get into what the Batman actually is it's this magazine article, right? And the cover is Trouble Alert. The date is May 30th, 2019. Of course, this issue released May 30th, obviously 2018. But
Right.
it's just a nice touch. It's like, no, we're exactly a year ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a cool touch. Especially since this will finish around that time next year.
Yeah.
It should do, yeah, assuming everything goes to plan.
Yeah. Well, if anything, it should speed up. It shouldn't get more delayed.
Like I say,
hoping.
assuming we stick on the current schedule.
Yes. It's just this thing. It's sort of exposing some of the key figures, and you get a little bio for the new Killer Frost and how Man-Bat's there, Firestorm. Like, it seems like whoever's behind this theory, this Superman theory, is either paying off or scaring certain metahumans to claim that it's all true and back up the story. And that's what we see. Killer Frost in the news was doing that this issue, and we found out a few other ones. There's also a pretty cool map of how the metahuman arms race is heating up, and we see how various other countries have got their own heroes. Notably, New Superman's there for China, which I thought was cool. And apparently the Justice League of China have merged with the Great 10, because now they've got the Great 20. Yeah, that was amusing. And then we see the other various ones around there. But that was interesting stuff. It was interesting stuff.
And we got a piece on the article opens with a piece on Metamorpho, because it was like, no, he was the first of the experiments.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting, because obviously we know he was kind of an experiment, an accidental, but it was based from an experiment.
No, I love, obviously the back as well as the little piece on Black Adam and kind of his recent history and whatnot. No, this was great. I left this issue just feeling ecstatic.
This is fantastic.
Because I know some people, have lost a bit of wind with Doomsday Clock. The schedule's too slow for them. They're not as into it. It's interesting that all three of us are all just really, really, eating up what it's given us.
Yeah, I think the last issue might have been the weakest one of the 5.
But you're not here for the last one?
No, he was.
I think I was.
Well, I think we all agreed that, though.
No, I'm just agreeing, in context of having seen this one now, and I think at the time of that issue, I was starting to maybe feel the schedule a little, based on that issue, with it being, the hyper-focused issues, I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel the schedule a little. And then this one, we break the mold, we've got all the things coming together, we've got all these shorter scenes, and suddenly I'm like, okay, schedule's fine now. It doesn't matter now. I'm getting issues like this.
Yeah, and issue 4 again. It's the only one that's been that focused in terms of like who it's ignoring, and again, it makes sense. Like I appreciate what it was doing because it's kind of mimicking the Watchmen sort of structure, where the issue after after Rorschach got kidnapped, we got the issue focused on him and his past and the asylum, and that's what we got this time with Rorschach. So I appreciate what it did, and I think in the trade eventually it'll read completely fine.
Yeah.
It was just a weird issue to get when you're waiting 2 months for your fix. So I suppose you rate Doomsday Clock. Rate this before we move on now. Connor, rate Doomsday Clock out of 10.
I gave this a 9.
Matt.
Get ready for it. This is a 10.
Oh boy.
This is my favorite issue, so far.
Yeah, but how many of the previous issues was have also been a 10?
No, maybe the first. But other than that, they've been around between 8 and 9.5 maybe. So
I'm like 9, maybe 9.5. Like I'm in that region. It's fantastic. I love it. So we're a pro Doomsday Clock show.
Just final touch.
Yeah.
At the end of the Batman, and to close off that magazine article, it has a beautiful Visit Metropolis poster. I'm like, God damn it, I want one of those on my wall.
that's the background of my phone right now.